Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris and do you hear that? That's the sound of Chucky making love. Oh, the late 90s and early 2000s. What an interesting time it was to be a horror fan. It was a weird period in the genre because every movie had a certain flavor to it. They all had heavy metal soundtracks, a blue hue to them, and characters that looked like they belong in a Marilyn Manson video. Horror movies were just not trending at the time, so studios felt no need to dive deep into the stories. Until one movie decided to change that all, Scream. Scream reinvented the genre by both being serious and a parody of slasher films. The success was so high that it brought an old icon back to life. Universal said to themselves, well, people like slashers and making fun of horror? I think we got a little guy who can do that. Giving us Bride of Chucky. After the critical and financial failure that was Child's Play 3, Universal did put the character away for a while. But like I said, Scream did reinvent the genre and had people craving more horror films. So much so that Don Mancini and company thought that they could write their own horror parody that audiences would love, going as far as to even parody the poster for Scream 2 with the Bride of Chucky poster. It's a move that I completely despise that they did with the character of Chucky. Not only was he going more comedic, the name of the films were changing to Blank of Chucky, and we no longer had a main protagonist for the films like an Andy Barclay. Instead, Chucky decided to be the star of his own film. It's a film that I will admittedly say is fun and entertaining, but in the end, it's still a shame to the horror icon that is Chucky, especially since it's a setup for the worst horror film ever made. But we'll get there eventually. So before going on and hitting play with Bride of Chucky, let me know what you think about this installment in the movie. I think this is one that's gonna have people pretty divisive, because you either have people who absolutely love what they're doing, or think that this was just the stepping stones that led Chucky out of theaters for good. Curious to what you guys will say, but without further ado, let's hit play at Bride of Chucky. So we have the movie opening up at a police department, more specifically the evidence depository. A great little nod to horror fans who pay attention to these slasher icons. Unrealistic and dumb that they would all end up at the same police department in Chicago. It's still cool nonetheless. We follow a police officer who's looking for a specific item, opening up an unsolved case and delivering the bag to an unknown buyer. Oh man, just hearing that voice gets me tingling. Curiosity does get the best of him though, and before the buyer can arrive, he takes a peek inside. Enter in Jennifer Tilly, aka Tiffany. Gotta say, one of the main reasons why I watch this thing over and over. Men Essentials, hell yeah. But us Chucky fans are pretty respectful to women, especially our queen Tiffany, so hey, for her, we light a little candle when we do this, okay? We're not monsters, we gotta be gentlemen here.
12 seconds later.
Back to the movie. After she finishes up her kill, I do find it interesting that she decides to lick the blood off her finger. Is no one afraid of AIDS or HIV in this world? Tired of horror movies doing this cliche? No one wants a disease. And before the title sequence can appear, we are revealed to what's in the bag with a great one-liner.
Well, hello, Dolly.
Leading us to an essential for a Chucky movie, how he comes back to life. And this to me just brings back memories. I remember sitting on the couch watching this movie as a kid thinking to myself, this is awesome. Not only for the continuity reasons of how he died in Child's Play 3 and the fact that she's been searching for him all this time and stitches him back up Frankenstein style with other doll pieces, revealing the stitched up, beat up Chucky look, which physically I absolutely love. I think it's great because it shows that this character literally has scars. He's been through hell, he's come back from it, and he has an attire to fit with that. Pair that up with the fact that this genre is reinvented and it's a new birth for him, it's only essential that he gets a new look. Cutting away now, introducing us to the human characters in this movie. Oh, and look, Ronnie Yu directs this. He eventually directs Freddy vs. Jason, so that's cool. We're introduced to Police Officer Kincaid here, the police chief for this town, and also the uncle for the main protagonist in this movie, Jade. They're prepping for what essentially is their prom, and as a kid, I never understood why the atmosphere was so awkward, but obviously playing it back now as an adult with more perspective, you see why everything was sort of weird.
Well, I've been hearing good things about you, David. I understand you're off to Princeton next fall. What are you going to study?
Theater arts.
You are gay.
But on an athletic scholarship, right?
Figure skating.
Homosexual?
Forget something?
Oh! This is for you.
I love lilies.
Actually, it's an orchid. Cymbidium orchid? You put it in a vase and drop an aspirin in the water. It should last you the whole week.
Doesn't that make you gay?
The movie just loves to hammer in these little subtle hints that the guy is obviously gay. And well, Chief Kincaid does not deal with that, purposely leaving that fly in the scene to let you know that Chief Kincaid smells shit. Jade using her gay best friend to be able to go on a date with her real boyfriend, Jesse. As those characters drive off, we cut back to Tiffany here, who is finishing up her ritual of bringing Charles Lee Ray back to life. And again, I'm just a little kid, excited, wondering how this is gonna happen. Okay, she put some sort of demonic thing with candles around, and she's reading from some text. Okay, is this gonna be like the Necronomicon of Child's Play? You get to see the Book of Damballa. Oh. Don Mancini, am I a joke to you? I'm gonna pause right here to go on a little rant that bugs me with what Don Mancini does with the character of Chucky. Now, if you haven't kept up with my series of reviewing all the movies, I'll link it down below, but I did mention in the first one that the whole voodoo aspect was never Don Mancini's idea. This was something later added on by the director of the first movie, Tom Holland. And ever since then, Don Mancini has never really focused on the voodoo aspect because it was something he didn't create. But he does use it for get out of jail free cards. When he wants to explain something but doesn't really have a good way to do it, he just uses, oh, okay, voodoo, which is understandable. Okay, do that. That's what Chucky does, but he does it in this disrespectful way to me, the whole voodoo for dummies. And still, I'm a Don Mancini fan and I like what he's done with the character at times, but when he does this thing with the voodoo, it just makes me go, come on, Don, you could really explore the lore of Damballa. Okay, unpause here. She finishes up the ritual and appears that nothing has happened. I do like how she was setting up this cute little evening that once Chucky was gonna come to life, they were gonna have dinner together and she had 2 chairs there. I think you need a high chair for Chucky. After that disappointment, we're introduced to Tiffany's current boyfriend. And if you want a summary of all the late 90s and early 2000s movie, it's basically this guy's face. That's what they all look like. Damien hands Tiffany a supposed picture of one of his victims, leading me to something I really like about the Tiffany character. She is attracted to the violence of the murder.
Oh my god, you really did a number on him, didn't you? Was it really bloody? Did he scream a lot?
And if you want to date her, you have to live that lifestyle too. And for Tiffany, I'd do anything, girl. If that's what it takes to date you, yeah, I probably wouldn't get in. Just like this guy wouldn't get in either because he faked the photo. Tiffany walking away and realizing Chucky's no longer there. Pretty cool little setup too. Because this is also the parody part in the movie that I actually enjoy, where it's making fun of a situation that happens countless times in a horror movie. Us, the audience, knows that the killer is somewhere in the room, we know not where, and we're forced to watch this future victim just walk around until he finally pops out. In this instance, Tiffany plays that role with us, letting us set up a kill for Damien to be attacked.
Damien, could you do me a favor and see if my lipstick is under the sofa there?
This is something brilliant that I wish the movie focused more on instead of the obvious low parody jokes that will continue further in this movie. It all leads to Chucky finally popping up and Damien finally thinking he's gonna get the goods from Tiffany, which again, we're willing to do anything for Tiffany, and this guy was willing to be handcuffed and have Chucky on top of him. We are revealed some further backstory of the relationship between Tiffany and Chucky, because you have to remember the first time watching this, we have no idea how she's even connected to Charles Lee Ray. But man, if the movie wanted to get our attention and let us know everything that was happening between Tiffany and Charles Lee Ray, they did a good job of doing that.
We lived together for years. Of course, that was before the cops killed him. That was before he passed his soul into that doll there. We were gonna get married. God, was he an incredible lover.
I respect you, Tiffany. I respect you so damn much, Tiffany. But the mood is killed by Chucky literally going in to kill the noob.
It ain't the size that counts, asshole. It's what you do with it.
Giving us a little Exorcist parody, which, okay, this is the kind of stuff I enjoy that they're doing. And a really horrific kill, one that still makes me a little uncomfortable when I see it now. I'm glad that even though there's a lot of comedic tones in this movie, they still kept it true with the kills bloody and Chucky being unforgiving. And am I the only one who finds this uncomfortable but romantic at the same time, that their first encounter in over 10 years is the same way you greet your ex-girlfriend on Facebook?
Hi.
Hi.
The fact that Chucky is suffocating a guy who's murmuring in the background, but these two are giving lovebird eyes, it's what really solidifies this relationship to me, and I don't mind them introducing a bride for Chucky. It's a notion that I think is dumb just by the title Bride of Chucky, but when you pair them up and you give their little backstory, it's actually one of the best things to come out of this movie. But all good things in this movie get sort of ruined like this.
Stop it.
Again, I understand trying to be funny, trying to be parody, and of course, even myself jokingly see that Jennifer Tilly is pretty voluptuous. But seeing Chucky try to grab a pair of tatas just devalues him as a horror icon in my opinion. As Chucky nabs second base, we cut back to the human characters who have gotten pulled over by one of the worst characters ever to set face on the Chucky earth. Guys, we must now take away all our hate from Phil from Child's Play 2 and give it straight to Needle Nose, the dirty cop in this movie. There's something about his face, his smile, his nasty hair that we don't get to see for long that makes this guy so engraved in your brain. I can't stand it when he's on screen.
Gotcha.
The guy is paid off by the police chief to constantly harass these guys and keep them apart. Real unfortunate for these lovebirds, but bringing us back to Tiffany and Chucky, we find out the reason that Tiffany has been so obsessed with finding Chucky all these years is because she believed he was going to propose to her, when in fact Charles was just keeping a ring from one of his past victims because of how much money it's worth. Chucky's not a guy that settles down. And here we go with a roller coaster ride of emotions of things I like in this movie.
You haven't changed. You'll never change. The hell was I thinking?
And then back down this roller coaster because the movie cannot let you have this cool moment because we got to go into a little tickle fight.
Little baby ticklish. Is he?
Could you see Michael Myers, Jason, Pennywise, or even Freddy go into a tickle fight? I didn't think so. And back up the roller coaster with a great little exposition of how she's feeling.
My mother always said love was supposed to set you free. That's not true, Chucky. I've been a prisoner of my love for you for a very long time. Now it's payback time.
The classic Tiffany, my mother always used to say lines, which is a character trait I would have found annoying in other characters, but the way Tiffany does it, it just reveals a layer of her backstory and why she's so obsessed with finding a perfect man who kills. Crying the night away, we finally get to see the connection between the teenage characters and the adult murderers. Turns out they live in the same trailer park, and Tiffany has a hankering for Jesse, and hey, I don't blame her. Look at that man.
Why are you gay?
No, but I support. Nothing wrong with it. Tiffany continuing to torture Chucky in the same way she's been tortured all these years longing for his love. She brings him a little bride that is a convenient setup for something later to happen. Again, I used to say I love Chucky messing with kid items in a sinister way, but this... was not really what I had in mind. Funny, but ruins his horror credibility. Cutting to Tiffany in the tub, I love how she's watching the news of the murders she just recently did, with no regard or worry for being caught, eventually changing the channel to an homage of what this film is basically based off of, The Bride of Frankenstein, showing just how much of a hopeless romantic Tiffany really is, which one more time I'm gonna solidify and say it, the best thing to come out of this movie is the character of Tiffany. If Tiffany didn't work, the whole movie is a failure. Chucky does manage to escape though, leading to a nice visual of him dragging that doll, knowing damn well what he has in store. Moments like this that bring the movie up a notch for me. If it was just scenes like this of pure horror, we'd all be singing a different tune, but unfortunately the movie reminds us why we can enjoy great horror visuals, because this is a horror comedy now, and well, we need jokes.
We're going to love, honor, and obey.
I wouldn't marry you if you had the body of G.I. Joe.
Hey, Raggedy Ann, you looked in the mirror lately? Now's not the time to get picky.
Finally bringing us to the plot of this movie, what they need to do and how they're gonna do it. Chucky, I guess feeling lonely for having 3 movies to himself, decides to share the spotlight by bringing Tiffany into it. Chucky points out, thanks to the Holy Bible of Voodoo for Dummies, they need the Heart of Damballa, which is a necklace he was wearing the night he was murdered. If Chucky is then able to get that necklace, he could transfer his soul out of the doll no matter of the time limit to continue his late night shore strangling, enlisting the help of the teenage lovebirds who are also looking for an escape out of their town, not before bringing up a very valid point.
I don't get it. Why don't you just mail the dolls?
which is something that eventually becomes a very good staple of how Chucky gets around being mailed off. That would have actually been the smartest thing they could do, is put themselves in a package and then just have him mail the dolls to where they needed to be. But hey, then we would have no movie, so I guess they need to be delivered to the cemetery where Charles Lee Ray is buried in order to get their hands on the heart of Damballa. Jesse and Jade cannot be more excited for their new lives as they go to pack. One thing I talk about that I absolutely loved about Child's Play 2 is that they blended the horror and the comedy in a good way.
Were you born with that knife super glued onto your hand or what?
What are you talking about?
For God's sake, Chucky, drag yourself into the 90s. Stabbings went out with Bundy and Dahmer. You look like Martha Stewart with that thing.
Who the fuck is Martha Stewart?
My idol?
This little scene, I think, does captivate the blend of horror and comedy with the relationship of Chucky and Tiffany. Tiffany almost working as the person who keeps Chucky fresh and full of great ideas for how to kill. Not to mention the girl called it herself. Martha Stewart is a badass, because 6 years later after this movie, that woman ends up in prison. Tiffany knows they're a psycho when she sees one. Chucky and Tiffany are left alone with little Uncle Kincaid, who just cannot let the lovebirds be happy. Leading us to the first couple kill of the franchise, Officer Kincaid getting Pinhead.
No!
And of course, because it's a parody, we can't let that slide.
Why does that look so familiar?
Yeah, I get it, because it looks like Hellraiser. Hilarious. Even more funny to me though is when Jesse and Jade are coming back and Tiffany is scrubbing the blood and they're panicking to get rid of the body. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but that made me really laugh. Not even being able to escape the city limits though, the couple is pulled over by Needle Nose Jerkface, good for nothing, total hatred. Kill this man already, Chucky, please. Needle Nose, who if you like them, well then just enjoy this.
Nothing personal, at least on my part. But the money.
Chucky and Tiffany realizing that this would halt their plans pretty quick, that their rides are going to be in jail. Chucky sprints into action to get the job done, satisfying us, the audience member, from what we're dying to see happen.
Rude fucking doll.
No, not a rude doll. A hero. Goodbye, Needle Nose. You will not be missed. Jesse and Jade rush out of there unaware of what is going on as they suspect each other for what just happened to Needle Nose. This is an interesting dynamic that the movie does, pinning the couple against each other, almost proving the fact that even if you're in love or if you're a couple of sadistic killers, when you mix murder into it, things get complicated. Still, they power through and avoid thinking that one of them is sleeping with Hannibal Lecter and decide to get married. As that is happening, we cut to Tiffany and Chucky again devaluing their horror icon status.
Tiff, I'm sorry. For everything.
I guess I can't complain. I always wanted us to spend more time together. Just look at us now.
By a little relationship talk and Chucky apologizing, being sympathetic. I always believed that the relationship that Chucky and Tiffany should have would be much like the one of the Joker and Harley Quinn. That of the comics, not of the Suicide Squad movie, where the Joker is just abusive and self-centered and keeps Harley to the very bottom of his list of what he should care about. Chucky showing emotional weakness is not something you want in your villain. But thank goodness the movie realizes that things were getting a little too mushy, again bringing this movie back up where it was just at a low point. The cutting back and forth of Tiffany encouraging Chucky to murder while we have Jesse and Jade getting married at the same time. It's poetic things like this that show me there was gold in this movie, but they boggled it all up with comedy. You don't need comedy because
A true classic never goes out of style.
thank you, Chucky. Jesse and Jay doing what every newlywed does, sit there and watch the news after you just got married. That's not what I was hoping to see, but okay. Wasted opportunity. The mood is even further ruined by this con artist couple trying to persuade them into foursome when honestly they were just trying to take their money. Tiffany not having this and goes off to kill on her own, which is probably the best death in this entire movie. But wait a minute, we got an amazing, creepy, horror death scene? That means something terrible and funny is about to happen. The amount of drugs these people were on is enough to overdose Superman if you thought Chucky having sex with Tiffany in this movie was a good idea. Not even something I can consider funny, okay? You want to go the comedic route, you want to bring Chucky a little more humorous, fine. But to take it all the way to 110 and show Tiffany butt crack, a silhouette of them slowly having romantic sex, and god-awful dialogue.
You got a rubber. Have I got a rubber?
Yeah.
Tiff,
What?
look at me. I'm all rubber.
Is an embarrassment. One thing that really makes me mad about this though, look at me being mad about a doll in a movie, is that to me horror villains or icons should never really be sexualized. Yeah, I know you have your creepy people on Tumblr who like to do nasty things with these horror icons, but in the actual movie there's something about Michael Myers, Jason, or Freddy not having sex appeal. That the fact that this human quality that we all have that builds us with certain urges is absent in these people, making them even darker and creepy. To then go out of your way and purposely give them this sort of sexualized vibe weakens the character even further for me. When Jason is out in Camp Crystal Lake, he does not turn into Master Roshi when he sees a couple of tatas. Just saying. Moving back to Jesse and Jade, who decide they need to get the hell out of there because of the murder that just happened. Even more, the relationship is fully put to the test when they both tell themselves, look, I can't do this anymore. But good old Frost Tips, the best friend, is there to glue them back together. Even though the news has been running the story that these two guys are murderers, he cannot see it for themselves because he has been their friend for the longest time. That is until he finds a smelly dead body in their van turning on his friends. Bringing me to what I think is possibly the worst death in the entire Child's Play franchise, yes, even including the heart attack scene from Child's Play 3, just accidentally backing up into a truck and then splitting open like a watermelon. Okay. But the cherry on top is Chucky and Tiffany popping out with a couple of guns, and I mean, guns and Chucky, not a PB&J combination. The couple's double date out of there, Chucky now revealing more of his plan that once he gets his hands on the heart of Damballa, Tiffany and Chucky are both transferring into Jesse and Jade's body. Continuing on to the cemetery, they do switch wheels, and hey, this is the type of comedy that I actually like in the horror movie.
Excuse me.
That makes me laugh. Good old mom and pop being murdered. But there is something quaint and cute about this scene where Tiffany is bringing a plate of cookies to Chucky. I remember as a kid really wanting to taste her meatballs and those cookies. That was not a euphemism. I mean, just look at this double chin. All hell does break loose though when Chucky decides to make a comment on Tiffany not doing the dishes.
Tiff, those dishes aren't gonna wash themselves, you know.
You were nice enough to cook for him. The least he could do is wash the dish.
What are you doing?
This was all obviously gonna happen, and you know what? It's done nicely. Until Tiffany takes it a little too far.
For a man who isn't even a man at all, where it counts, if you get my drift. Take it from me, honey. Plastic is no substitute for a nice hunk of wood.
I didn't hear her complaining last night.
I've been there too, Chucky. I've been there too. Jesse and Jade obviously take this opportunity to get the upper hand on them. Kind of poetic that Tiffany ends up being toasted and fried up, sort of like Chucky was in the first time he went into doll mode. Sort of like a rite of passage. But even with the upper hand, Chucky still manages to get to his grave, acquiring the heart of Damballa from Jade. This is some of the confusing part of this movie for me because at one point Chucky was willing to run away and just had a fight with Tiffany in the RV. But yeah, he's willing to have this standoff trade for her. I mean, he doesn't even look all that happy when she comes over. It's just a real mixed balance. Does he actually care about her? Does he not? What's the whole point of him bringing her along? A final kiss between the couple ensues, and Tiffany decides to take this opportunity to backstab Chucky. And this is something that I applaud with the character of Tiffany. The fact that she is this hopeless romantic who believes in love over death. Seeing Chucky ruin this couple and almost split them apart is enough to where she thinks this isn't worth it anymore, Chucky.
Oh, Chucky, look at us. Don't you see? We belong dead.
But of course we know a stab does nothing to our boy, and he fights her back in a way that is not goofy at all. Chucky finally stabbing Tiffany back, ending her involvement in the movie with some good last words.
My mother always told me love would set me free.
Get off my knife!
And this is another part of the movie that I enjoy, these little visual shots that are actually awesome. Chucky standing over Tiffany's dead corpse, knife in hand, lightning in the background. Why couldn't the whole movie be more of these great shots? But in Chucky posing to be the next Thor, he's hit by a shovel thanks to Jade landing in his grave, knowing it's all over, and gives us a line that really resonates with me, and I'm happy as said,
Go ahead and shoot. I'll be back. I always come back.
but again, everything great comes with something funny to ruin it.
But dying is such a bitch.
Bride of Chucky to me, like I said, is such a frustrating fun watch. I see so many great things in this movie, so many amazing kills. Even the tone that has this emo metal vibe to it that heavily dates the film is still very enjoyable and makes it a standout in the franchise. No other film looks or sounds the way Bride of Chucky does. Not gonna lie though, as a child watching this movie for the first time, it excited me. The fact that we were having a baby Chucky just blew my mind, and I just wondered what creepy creation. Part of me even thought, is that Chucky reincarnated? But alas, it was no baby. It was Tiffany taking a major shit that would turn into this. But that is just my thoughts on Bride of Chucky. Let me know what you guys thought about this movie. Are you loving this one? Are you hating it? Are you in between and frustrated like me? Curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Film Review. As always, I'm Chris. Take care.